It was one of those crisp autumn mornings when the world seems caught between change and stillness, when the air carries both the chill of what's ending and the promise of what's about to begin. Emily sat by the window of a quiet cafe in Portland, Oregon, stirring her coffee absent-mindedly. The world outside was rushing, but her heart wasn't keeping pace anymore. Life had slowed down, not because she wanted it to, but because time had quietly taken back what it once gave her so freely. The sparkle of youth, the certainty of being wanted, and the thrill of being seen. She used to be full of life. She had once danced barefoot in the rain with her college sweetheart, painted her apartment walls yellow just to feel sunshine indoors, and believed in forever. But forever had turned out shorter than expected. Her husband, Mark, had passed away 5 years ago after a long battle with illness, and in those years of caregiving and grief, she had forgotten what it meant to feel like a woman again. Someone seen, admired, and loved for who she was, not just for what she did for others. Now, at 42, Emily's days were filled with routines. Early coffee, quiet work hours at her small floral shop, and evenings spent scrolling through old memories she couldn't bring herself to delete. Love, she thought, was a chapter that had closed. Before you go further, if you believe in kindness, healing, and second chances, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to this channel. Your support helps us keep creating stories that remind people that love can bloom again, no matter how late the season. That morning, she didn't expect anything unusual, but fate rarely announces its arrival. As she reached for her purse to leave, the cafe door opened, and in walked a man who looked like he had stepped out of a dream. Confident yet kind-eyed, tall but unassuming, dressed in a pale blue shirt that caught the morning light just right. He looked around briefly before approaching the counter. Emily noticed how he smiled at the barista, warmly, genuinely. When his gaze accidentally met hers, he gave a polite nod. She quickly looked away, embarrassed at being caught staring. A few minutes later, the man turned, coffee in hand, and searched for a place to sit. The cafe was almost full except for one empty chair, right across from Emily. "Mind if I sit here?" he asked gently. She hesitated, then smiled faintly. "Sure." He sat down, and for a few moments, silence stretched between them, comfortable yet curious. His name was Daniel, 32, a software engineer visiting Portland for a few weeks. Their small talk began like a whisper but grew into laughter within minutes. He spoke of how he loved old bookstores and coastal drives. She confessed her obsession with wildflowers and handwritten letters. Something about his energy reminded her of who she used to be. The woman who could laugh without thinking, who could talk for hours about the color of sunsets and the sound of rain on windows. As their cups emptied, Daniel leaned forward slightly and said, "You know, you have this calm about you. It's rare. Like you've lived through storms but still found a way to stay gentle." Emily laughed softly, brushing her hair aside. "That's one way to say I'm not as young as I look." He smiled, a slow, genuine smile that reached his eyes. "That's what makes you beautiful." The words caught her off guard, not because they were romantic, but because they were true in a way she hadn't been told in years. She felt something shift inside, a warmth she thought had long gone cold. Over the next few weeks, Daniel kept visiting the cafe, sometimes intentionally, sometimes by coincidence, or at least that's what he claimed. They started sharing mornings together, sipping coffee, talking about dreams, fears, and the small joys that make life bearable. Emily tried to remind herself that he was younger, that whatever connection they had was probably fleeting. But Daniel saw something else. Didn't see the faint lines near her eyes or the quiet tiredness in her voice. He saw her strength, her grace, the quiet power of a woman who had lived deeply and loved fearlessly. One rainy afternoon, they took a walk by the river. The city lights shimmered against the water, and she found herself telling him about Mark, her late husband, how he used to leave little notes in her coat pockets, how his laughter could fill a room, and how losing him had emptied something in her that she didn't think could be refilled. Daniel didn't interrupt. He just listened. And when she finished, he said softly, "You don't lose people like that. They just stay differently. Maybe you're supposed to keep living enough for both of you." Something in his words broke her. She turned away, blinking, back tears. But he gently took her hand and held it until she stopped trembling. That night, for the first time in years, Emily didn't dream about loss. She dreamed about beginnings, but not everyone saw it that way. When her friend Laura found out about Daniel, she frowned. "Emily, he's 10 years younger. People will talk. Don't set yourself up for heartbreak. Emily smiled sadly. People talked when I got married at 22, when I couldn't have kids, and when I buried my husband. Let them talk again. Still, the doubt lingered. She had seen how fleeting affection could be in a world obsessed with youth and perfection. She told herself Daniel would get bored eventually, that one day he'd wake up and realize she was just another chapter, not the story. But Daniel proved her wrong. He began helping her in the flower shop, learning names of flowers, arranging bouquets clumsily but earnestly. He brought her coffee every morning and left notes that made her smile. You make ordinary days extraordinary. One evening, they hosted a small community event at the shop, a charity drive for local shelters. Emily watched him from across the room, laughing with guests, helping elderly women carry flower pots, and she realized something quietly beautiful. She wasn't falling for a younger man, she was falling for a kinder soul. When the evening ended, and the lights dimmed, Daniel walked her home. The city was quiet. Standing at her doorstep, he looked at her the way people look at something fragile yet precious. I don't care what anyone thinks, he said softly. I don't see numbers. I see you, and you've changed how I see everything. Emily wanted to believe him, but life had taught her not to trust happiness too quickly. She smiled, nodded, and said, We'll see. Weeks turned into months. Their bond deepened through laughter, shared silences, and moments that didn't need words. Emily began to glow again, though she didn't notice it. Her customers did. Her friends did. Even strangers did. But just when everything seemed perfect, fate tested her again. Daniel received a promotion, one that required moving across the country. The offer was huge, the kind you don't say no to. When he told her, she froze, trying to mask the ache inside. That's wonderful, Daniel, she said, forcing a smile. You deserve it. He studied her quietly. You think this means I'll leave, don't you? She said nothing, because she knew life had a way of taking away the very things that made you feel alive. That night, Daniel didn't try to convince her. He simply kissed her forehead and whispered, Some people chase dreams. Some people become them. She didn't understand what he meant until weeks later when she walked into the cafe again, alone. Her heart was heavy, but she had made peace with it. She told herself it had been beautiful while it lasted, and then she heard his voice. Still drinking the same cappuccino? She turned, and there he was, standing in front of her, holding 2 coffees and smiling like he never left. What are you doing here? She asked, her voice trembling. He grinned. I turned it down. Portland's not just a place anymore. It's home. Your home. Tears spilled before she could stop them. He walked up, wiped one from her cheek, and said softly, You once told me you weren't as young as I think. Maybe not. But you're everything I ever needed to grow up. The cafe around them faded. The city noise dissolved. All that remained was the quiet certainty that sometimes love doesn't come when we're ready. It comes when we're brave enough to believe again. Months later, Emily and Daniel reopened her flower shop with a new name, Second Bloom. It became a small haven for people who'd lost something, love, time, or hope, and wanted to find a reason to begin again. Every morning, Daniel still brought her coffee, and every evening, she still teased him about being too young to understand patience. But in his eyes, she saw devotion that had nothing to do with age, and everything to do with heart. Love, she realized, wasn't about who was older or younger. It was about finding someone who sees the beauty in your scars and still calls them stars. And as they sat together one golden afternoon, her hand in his, she whispered, You were right. Maybe love does find you again, if you stop hiding from it. He smiled, the same smile that had once made her heart tremble. No, he said gently. Love never left. You just stopped believing it could still be yours. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps us keep spreading hope through stories that remind us it's never too late to love again. Comment below, do you believe that love can find you again, no matter your age or past? Tell us your thoughts. Your words might inspire someone who needs hope today.